A transgender teenager named Milo Stewart uploaded a YouTube video titled, "All cis people are transphobic, and you're probably racist too." So, what do you think happened next? How did the YouTube anti-SJW community respond? Well, since it's a community that prides itself on its cool-headed rationality and willingness to stand up for free speech, you might have expected a compassionate and measured retort. But you didn't expect that, did you?
No, not even a little bit, to be honest.
And neither did I. Fuck. Milo's video inspired several mean-spirited video responses.
Repzion and Tyler Preston's responses were hardly mean-spirited, but go on.
But the one I want to focus on is the Amazing Atheists. Before I dig in, I should say that TJ is by no means the worst anti-SJW vlogger out there.
This is just a matter of opinion, but I would have to disagree with you there because most of TJ's videos are intellectually bereft and boil down to "fuck you, I'm right," followed by a bunch of name-calling. So it actually does make sense to me that you would single out his video. What doesn't make sense is that you would then go on to say that he's not the worst of the bunch.
He has a kind of self-awareness about himself.
But hey, don't feel bad, I barely have a penis either.
He's kind of obliged to do that after the infamous banana tape.
And about his audience.
These brainless fucking insects!
That I respect. And that's really lacking in certain other vloggers I could mention.
Oh, the old saying it but not saying it. Classy.
In his video response to Milo, TJ even seems to realize that he's too smart to be saying the things he's saying.
Yes, he's so smart that it takes him 4 minutes of memeing and grandstanding about himself before finally getting into the content, at which point he proceeds to do nothing but hurl insults and provide fodder for this little video that you've made.
He almost seems trapped, like he's a hostage who has to cater to these dum-dums in the comments.
I guess that's an accurate assessment, considering TJ hasn't said anything insightful in about 8 years.
And yet there he is. A grown man publicly mocking a transgender 17-year-old on the internet.
So would the situation be any different if Milo were 18 or 25 or however old TJ is? Does it really matter how old anyone involved in the conversation is?
Hey guys, I may appear female, but I am in fact a non-binary trans person who prefers male pronouns. I am oppressed!
Welcome to the YouTube community, Milo. You're going to make a lot of friends here.
Everyone gets criticism, and this is a good thing. Can you explain why it isn't?
There's obviously a difference between criticizing and bullying, but on YouTube, bullying often tries to pass itself off as critique. There are a lot of claims in Milo's video that are debatable. For instance,
even if you are raised by open-minded people, you will still be psychologically affected by living in a society built on imperialism, which, by the way, created cisnormativity and heteronormativity.
I don't know what that means.
I find it really hard to believe that someone who says they're an adjunct professor in the social sciences doesn't know what that means, but I'll humor you. It means that Milo has been brainwashed by a pervasive ideological movement, which is why the anti-SJW community exists. Because get this, some people might be opposed to the idea that all men are sexist, all white people are racist, etc. Milo didn't just pull this out of his ass, someone taught this bullshit to him.
But if you really wanted to engage with Milo, you might leave a comment like, "That seems like an extreme claim, Milo. Why do you say that all cis people are transphobic?"
Or you might make a more thoughtful response than TJ's, such as Tyler Preston's, Mr. Repzion's, or even my response. Sure, we crack some jokes here and there, but to equate these responses with TJ's is just dishonest on your part.
But if you look at the top comments on his video, they're not like that at all. Everyone is dehumanizing him and encouraging him to kill himself.
Consider the YouTubers that Milo cited as inspiration, and consider what Milo said in his own video, and realize that all 3 of them are, in fact, dehumanizing the people that they don't like. People tend not to respond positively to that. Just saying.
You might say that everyone gets nasty comments, and that's true, but on Milo's video, the nastiest, most personal, most, well, transphobic comments are also the highest rated, which suggests that they're representative of the general audience.
No, it really doesn't, because most people can barely be bothered to even click the like or dislike button, much less scroll down to the comments section and actually leave a comment. And without knowing who is watching and who is leaving a comment and what the relationship between those two groups is, you can't say that anything is representative of anything.
Notice that these people are supposedly so angry about the accusation of being transphobic that they respond by being transphobic.
Only that third comment could be argued to be transphobic, and it seems like a troll comment to me. After all, we know that people behave differently when they have anonymity.
It reminds me of the people who say that there is no rape culture that blames women for being raped.
And, by the way, women are to blame for being raped.
Are you suggesting that people who say there's no rape culture that blames women for being raped also blame women for being raped? Because if so...
What else does it remind me of? And this isn't even a real fucking photograph.
Does it need to be real in light of recent world events? Not that either of these references are in any way relevant to anything else you're saying, but Please continue.
This is real though. It's so real.
You're really not helping your case by showing more troll comments.
So you say that trans people and feminists need safe spaces because they're crybabies who can't handle criticism. But when you look at how terribly they're actually treated in free speech zones, the safe space thing starts to make sense.
No, it really doesn't, because without actually putting their ideas forward to the public and seeing if they can stand up to public scrutiny, how are they ever going to make any progress on anything? The simple truth of it is that they want safe spaces because they're afraid that people won't like their ideas, and on some level, deep down, they probably know that their ideas are nonsensical bullshit.
And besides, you all have your own version of safe spaces anyway.
Yeah, there's one teeny tiny little difference though. None of these people want to force their ideas on others. None of these people want to institute their ideas in schools and mandate opinions as fact. Very minor difference, really.
In this case, the complete circle jerk that is the comments section of anti-SJW videos.
And yet, anyone is welcome to come and disagree and share their own ideas if they have different ideas. No one is stopping them. As far as the people that we argue against and make fun of, well, they have a little thing called the Twitter blockbot, and I'm apparently blocked by people I've never even interacted with on Twitter. Ever.
I mean, just look at the difference between the ratings of SJW and anti-SJW videos. Which group of people is in a fucking safe space?
The people who are advocating for mandated safe spaces. It's not the anti-SJW community's fault if more people agree with us.
Now, I should say that there are some masochists like me who actively enjoy pain and humiliation.
3 edgy 5 me, fam. Can you link me to your DeviantArt page?
But I'm guessing that most of you don't enjoy being publicly abused and insulted by thousands of people.
No one enjoys it, but it comes with saying controversial things. If you choose to be a public figure, then you should be prepared for what comes with being a public figure. From the biggest star to the lowliest YouTube channel, people are going to criticize you.
And they're going to say mean things that might hurt your feelings.
That's the risk you're taking by doing what you're doing, and if you honestly can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't do it.
You predict that Milo will shut down his comments section, and if he does, you'll say it's because he can't take criticism and he hates freedom of speech. But how many of you anonymous cowards could sit through this kind of onslaught?
You don't have to sit through it if you don't want to. And besides, what about all the really big YouTubers like PewDiePie or Markiplier or anyone with a subscriber count in the millions? Do you really think every single one of those subscribers is leaving positive feedback?
It's especially hard for me to watch this kind of shit go down on YouTube, because I've been led to believe that the people leaving and upvoting these comments are, in fact, nerds. And I thought nerds were bullied and abused by assholes and jocks in high school, so you'd think they'd be a little kinder to other unfairly reviled people as a result. But they really aren't. These nerds seem incapable of genuinely asking themselves whether they're standing up to bullies, or whether they have become the bullies themselves.
Yes, because there's no difference between being bullied for what you look like, or your taste in music, or what kind of electives you chose, and saying ridiculous, inflammatory, sometimes objectively false things on the internet.
Now, I realize that Milo isn't communicating his ideas perfectly. He's using the kind of SJW talking points that go over well in activist circles, but don't work when your audience is deeply hostile to you from the beginning.
I have a feeling that if a big established YouTuber came out and suddenly said the things that Milo is saying, it wouldn't make much of a difference, and they would get just as much hate.
Assuming Milo doesn't retreat from the shitwave that just hit his channel.
I'm already blocked on Twitter just for making a response, and I really didn't rip into Milo that hard. At least, not the way TJ did.
He'll eventually learn that you shouldn't say things like,
I don't care about your cisgender feelings.
unless you're prepared for the locusts to descend upon you like the fucking plague of Egypt.
Well, this is awkward.
Wait a minute, Egyptian Sphinx? Isn't that kind of like Sargon of Akkad? Jesus Christ, these people have disciples now.
I can't stand this.
You know, if you're going to accuse me of ripping someone off, you could at least pick an example that makes a little bit of sense. And I'm not really sure how chiming in on a subject makes you someone's disciple. I've only been making videos for about a week, and this is one of the first negative comments that I got. We don't need another Sargon. There are too many Sargons. But you know what? When a leading presidential candidate says things like,
I want to send a message to every survivor of sexual assault. You have a right to be believed.
the more people talk about this stuff, the better. Sargon's channel is pretty big for the genre, but even so, he only has about 300,000 subscribers, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot of people. This guy even says that he's never heard of Sargon, but he's seen my videos. I like the established YouTubers making these kinds of videos, and I'll admit that they did provide some inspiration for me to make my own channel, but they can't do it alone, you know? Thanks for the plug, by the way.
Back to TJ's video. It's not just the brainless fucking insects in his audience that are obtuse bullies. TJ himself mostly misrepresents Milo's arguments so that he can spend more time on mockery.
I would tend to agree with you there, but
The general trend now for anti-SJW channels is to berate and pwn some hapless feminist rather than to really argue. Even the anti-SJW titan TL Deer has complained about this recently, probably because he realizes it's becoming an embarrassment for the entire community he's part of.
well, I think it really depends. A certain degree of mockery does have its place, and I do some of that in my own videos, but I also try to stick to the facts, and if someone makes a factual claim about something, I'm not just going to say that they're stupid, I'm going to say that they're stupid and here's why. Not the same thing as what TJ did in his response to Milo.
The sad thing about this case is that Milo actually had a point. There's some truth to the idea that everyone is racist, so long as you distinguish between explicit racial hostility and implicit prejudice and bias.
Only if you admit that explicit racial hostility and implicit prejudice and bias can go in all directions, as in people other than white people can be guilty of these things. But even then, it would be silly to say that everyone is guilty of these things.
This is a distinction that Milo himself makes.
Words like racist, misogynistic, and transphobic are not insults, nor are they stereotypes or generalizations. Rather, they are facts about the way we are socialized in a Western society.
Milo isn't making that distinction at all in that clip, only asserting that these are facts about the way we are socialized in Western society, and by we, Milo means white people, not everyone.
Now, I do agree with the anti-SJWs that leftists should abandon this stupid habit of saying
Western society.
like it's so much more evil than the progressive utopias of Russia, Uganda, and Saudi Arabia. But the kid is 17 years old and trying out some new ideas.
No, the kid is regurgitating ideas that have been absorbed from other ideologues. I used to be one of these people, and I never would have snapped out of it if I hadn't heard different ideas and seen the bad results of the ideas I already had.
Give him a fucking break. I mean, he even clarifies his view when he says,
I talk mostly about Western societies because that is what I have the most experience with.
This is only a clarification of Milo's ignorance of the world outside of Western society and how truly terrible most of it is. I've actually been to Egypt, and it's not a nice place to live. I would much rather stay here in America. And I have a feeling that if more people like Milo actually went and visited the non-Western world, they would probably start to agree. You don't want to live in a place where every building of significance is guarded by guys with AK-47s around the clock.
But TJ just responds with a racist caricature.
Behead the infidel! But first, let us rape her to remind her that she is female!
That's not racist, that's accurate. And I say this as someone who despises TJ.
She is a witch! She eats in the poo-poo!
Okay, maybe that's a little racist.
wait, why do people like this guy? Well, the same reason they like this guy. But TJ should know better.
No, he shouldn't, because he's TJ.
In the end, TJ has little more to offer than a misrepresentation of Milo's argument.
You might think to yourself, I'm not racist. I treat all people as if they deserve the same rights and same human dignity. Yeah, we've heard that lie before, racist. As far as we're concerned, you might as well be the Klansmen burning the cross and lynching the black people.
You're taking one of the most pseudo-intellectual people on YouTube and holding him up as an example of the anti-SJW community. And honestly, I don't feel represented by the Amazing Atheists community. I don't feel represented by him. And the weird thing is that I actually agree with him on a lot of issues. But it's in a he's right but he doesn't know why sort of way.
In a later video, maybe I'll take up the question of whether everyone has racist prejudices, but I probably won't use TJ as an antagonist in that video. He just doesn't have anything serious to say about the subject. He could have mounted an argument against Milo's claims without attacking his gender identity.
You mean like Repzion, Tyler Preston, and others you've named in this video?
But instead he's decided to appeal to the sort of person for whom a fat kid falling in the mud and breaking his glasses is the height of comedy.
I was a fat kid and I think that's funny.
And how's that working out for him? Just fucking fine.
Yeah, same reason George Carlin could tell this bit.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
And make the entire room laugh. People like to feel smart whether they're actually smart or not.
And I get that part of the fun of YouTube is watching personalities clash. I'm not saying that vlogs should be perfectly calm and rational. It's one thing when a belligerent asshole like me attacks another belligerent asshole like TJ.
You seem less like a belligerent asshole and more like a pompous cunt. I mean, you mentioned all these other YouTubers and yet didn't give any examples of what you're talking about, probably because you couldn't. Tyler Preston and Repzion's videos were pretty reasonable. Armored Skeptic, Bearing, Shoe on Head, and Sugar Tits didn't make response videos to Milo. And Sargon and Teal Deer don't really do response videos at all. And honestly, some people really are best dealt with by just calling them fucking morons and moving on. Not every person is deserving of intellectual rigor. Sometimes they just deserve ponage because it's funnier that way, or just not worth the effort of trying to explain reality to a genuine idiot. Pretty much everything you're saying only really applies to the amazing atheist, and yet this video is directed at the entire anti-SJW community. And really, I think it's debatable as to whether TJ is even part of the anti-SJW community at all. He's more of a cartoon character of a stereotypical, fedora-tipping, Reddit atheist American leftist than anything else. There's a lot of overlap with SJWs there, like wanting to let in refugees or supporting Bernie Sanders. You know, the guy whose supporters routinely go out trying to shut down other people's rallies and blocking roadways and tweeting that white female Trump supporters deserve rape because they racist. Reasonable person stuff. Anyway, the fact that you directed this video at the entire anti-SJW crowd, but really only attacked the amazing atheist, makes me wonder if you even sent this response to him. Or maybe you're just trying to look like lay intelligent, rational middle ground man.
But when a belligerent asshole with hundreds of thousands of subscribers attacks an earnest teenager half his age and with a fraction of his audience, thereby inundating the small channel with a swarm of brainless fucking insects who are there not to engage or contribute, but to bully and torment, well, it's just kind of...
Yeah, it's terrible when people punch down at smaller channels.